Hey gamers, welcome to another episode of Bonus XP. Today, Casey and I are talking about Resident Evil 3, and you might be like, wait a minute, you already did a Bonus XP on Resident Evil 3, which you're kind of right. This time we're doing on the original Resident Evil 3 because Casey finally manned up and played a game that he has never played before.
And spoiler alert, it's way better than the remake.
Right? Like, legitimately, but we'll do some comparison stuff in a little bit. Let's just talk about specifically what did you like about Resident Evil 3? And I think I told you that this was the first Resident Evil 3 that I beat myself.
Wait, the first Resident Evil you beat?
Myself,
yes,
yeah.
okay.
The other ones I beat like with my brother, barely playing it. He was mostly playing it. And then he didn't want to play the original Resident Evil 3. So I was like, okay, well, it looks like I have to take the mantle and do this now. So
you missed out.
Yeah. Well, I mean, he sucks. So yeah, let's talk about it. This is a good game, and I feel like it does not get nearly as much credit as it deserves in the whole Resident Evil fandom, and it's very upsetting. Like, everyone focuses on Resident Evil 2, which I get, it's a classic. I'm not saying it's a bad game, but Resident Evil 3 is a good game.
I do still think I like 2 better, but I reckon.
Yeah, but how much of nostalgia weighs into that?
That's true. I haven't replayed it, and I probably should. I think that would be fun. But yeah, I think it's a lot of nostalgia goggles on.
It's funny, you know, anytime I play an old game, and I think about what I want to say about it now, because it's hard to convince newer gamers or younger gamers to play older games, like really sorting through my emotional attachment to a game and just trying to be critical. Like, yeah, you will like this game because X, Y, and Z. And on all the time on, you know, the gamer groups that we both belong to, people are always talking about how great X game is. Mm-hmm. And it's like, X game really isn't that great. Like, it's not a good game. You just played it at a dark time, or
just
it
as
was
a kid,
like an early
incredible
experience, right? Like, I could say Final Fantasy 1 was incredible, but like Final Fantasy 1 was not incredible. But Resident Evil 3, I think, is incredible. Like, I do think it, you know, it's not like Resident Evil 4. It is very dynamic, and it doesn't have the bells and whistles that like Resident Evil 4 does or some of the later games, but it still holds up. Why don't we talk about that dynamicness first?
Yeah.
Like, what did you kind of learn about it, even in the moment? Like, you only did one playthrough, but you learned some things about the game as you're playing.
No, I think my favorite part was just like, so you were obviously watching and you were like kind of giving me hints at what to do, like when Nemesis would come and I'd have options to go here, go there, and then there was like,
not like, there was one where I knew it would be really frustrating, but so I was like, just choose this because you can't fight them.
But I mean, like,
legitimately,
you were,
like,
I wouldn't say guiding, but you were there, like, you know, it was just it was fun. But anyway, so there was that first time when I think it was like the news or like the newspaper building, and I went in and I think I died because I was trying to look for the like gym or something, and I couldn't find it, and the Nemesis killed me because he ended up coming, and so I had to start over from my last save. And then I went the other route, and just like, it was just really cool, like how, like, getting to see by picking the other option or whatever I ended up doing, how like items that were there at one point weren't there the next time, and that I just thought that was really cool because is that in Resident Evil 2? I don't really remember.
No, I think the only thing that really changes in Resident Evil 2 is if you do A, B,
right?
Like Leon A, Claire B, or vice versa.
But,
and yeah, let's break that down a little bit for listeners that maybe haven't played Resident Evil 3. So there are split points where, not like open world, but you have the choice to go and even before that, to go to a place or go to a different place.
Yeah.
So immediately right there, that changes the way the game is played, because depending on which place you go to first, will change, like Casey said, monsters, items, even like quest related items, change
like
around depending on like this gem that you needed. Yeah. So that's one thing. The other way that the game can be dynamic is if you, every once in a while, the game will slow down when something heavy is about to happen, like Nemesis appearing, or, you know, you're about to fall,
Right.
and you can choose to get up or down or hide or try and like blow up the nemesis with something that is definitely not realistic. But those choices as well change the rest of the game.
Yeah.
It's to the point where some of the ending things, like I told you, there are some
Oh,
characters
right.
that can live at the end of the game, or they die depending on which you choose and what you do. So that's, to me, was just like ingenious. Because it's replayability without even being a different perspective. Like it's
Right.
still the
Still
same
a single
story, but
campaign.
and there was a point where like when you reloaded and monsters changed and you didn't even do anything, so it kind of
Yeah.
kept you on your toes. Like one time it was worms, I think, and then it
Yeah.
was spiders when we went
And
back
then it was
through.
hunters. It was in the park. There was worms which do no damage, and then the next time when I had to start over because I died, it was like freaking 4 hunters in the park.
Yeah.
It was cool.
Yeah, it definitely makes it fun. And I feel like probably from a speedrunning perspective, because there are a lot of people who play, do Resident Evil speedruns, it's probably a nightmare because you have to memorize the set path that determines those things, even more so.
I'm sure there's only like maybe like 5 or 6 possibilities, but like it's still cool. It almost felt like a roguelike in some ways, but obviously not to that level of randomness.
It's weird because I mean, like, I think there are more options than that. I mean, I feel like they kind of branch in at certain points, like the clock tower part. You're no matter what, you're going there, but like how you arrive is still different and still changes it. So I do think there's like a huge flux of different things that could happen. But you liked it.
Yeah,
and that's
it was
what mattered.
It was super great. And I mean,
what else did you really like?
I really liked even though like her voice acting isn't great, I like Jill, and I think she's underutilized in the series. She kind of got abandoned after 5, and in remakes,
I mean, she kind of got abandoned in 5.
yeah, that's true. They really effed her up. But it was just fun getting to see her kick ass and like almost like in like her original way, because there is like so much like glossiness in the remake, but getting to play as her again, I enjoyed that a lot, because she just hasn't had a role, like a playable role. I guess remake of 3, but like in like the chronological order of the games in a long time, she hasn't really had a role.
No, it's upsetting. I know a lot of people like swear by Claire, and I get it. Like Claire's cool,
do.
but Jill for me is the bigger hero. Like I
She's
think
OG.
she's OG. She goes through a lot. I like her story arcs in the earlier games. One thing about Resident Evil 2 and 2 Remake that you and I both talked about is you don't really get to spend a lot of time in the city of Raccoon.
Yes.
And one of the things I love so much about Resident Evil 3 OG is you are in the city a ton.
Yeah.
Like,
and there's a lot of environmental storytelling in like the pre-rendered backgrounds and everything. And I just think that's so cool, and it's really valuable. And I think newer games, like, because everything is constantly moving, it can be easy to miss like storytelling like that they do put in the background. But when it's sort of static in like this artistic way, it's just a lot. There's impact in a different way.
Right. Like some of the newer games are just so flashy, but you don't really get a vibe of it being a living, breathing city. And for this one, you do.
Right.
And even to the point where like there are other survivors and you kind of see that a little bit more, and you get to see the notes and whatnot. And even some USB members that are there too.
Mm-hmm.
It's cool. Like it's definitely a fun experience. Was there anything else that you liked about it?
I like Nemesis more in this one for sure. Obviously he's not as, I was going to say pretty as Remake, but he's not pretty in Remake. But just like the glossiness that he has. But like I enjoyed him more. He is less monstrous and more human. Oh, no, not human, but you know what I mean. He stays as like his like on 2 legs with 2 arms a lot longer in this one.
He keeps his humanoid shape
Yeah.
throughout the entire game until the very end.
Right, and I appreciated that. Like the whole thing in Remake where he's like running in circles around you at that fountain is a little bit ridiculous.
It is the most like new generation boss lazy design that you could have.
Yeah.
Like it's more gimmick boss than it is
Totally.
oh shit. Like there's one point I remember when we were playing, and it's right after you go to this little pharmacy and you have extinguished some flames and whatnot, and you're in this tight corridor. And it's like, okay, Nemesis is here. Have fun.
Yeah.
And it's not like this massive boss arena and here's the gimmick. It's literally this more realistic situation. It's not always going to be, it's something in your favor. Like if you want to fight Nemesis, you got to run and find that ideal place to fight Nemesis.
No, totally. Is kind of an aside, but remind me, is there ammo creation in the remake?
Yeah, there are.
I couldn't remember. I liked it a lot in the original, and I feel like it was more impactful in the original than if it is in remake than it was in remake, because I don't remember it being in remake. But.
Well, and I didn't want to spoil this for you too. I wanted to see if you could figure it out for yourself. But the more Jill crafts ammo, she actually like levels up her crafting skill.
Oh, sure.
So each time you do it, she makes more.
Oh, cool. Yeah, I don't think.
And then it gets to the point where she can craft special ammo, and you got a special gun for defeating Nemesis so many times, and that handgun is baller.
Oh, it's so good.
But even better is if you craft the handgun ammo enough times, you can get explosive ammo
for your handgun.
For your handgun,
you should have told me.
It's like basically, so it's a huge handgun investment, and then you wouldn't have had nearly as much Magnum ammo for the end of the game.
And that was very handy for that last boss battle.
Yeah, absolutely, definitely. So, but there's just like so many layers to those things, those mechanics that make it so much more fun.
Yeah. I will say I wouldn't say I was disappointed by the final boss battle, and
you were shocked that you were at it.
Yeah, I was. Yeah, I was just like, I mean, not that I think the remake final boss battle is anything like super special. It's grander, of course, because it's on PS4, PS5, and they can do that. But I just felt like the environment for the final boss battle was a little lackluster for the original.
So are you talking about when you're hitting them with the acid valves, or
the giant laser thing that you have to shoot? That one.
Yeah, I
that
mean,
room
it is
in general. I just was like,
it's
like
a U-shaped
something a little
room.
bigger.
But so the original games, because they didn't have the same like dynamic difficulty assistance that the newer games had, where, you know, if you don't have a lot of ammo, you're going to be getting a lot of ammo. The older games didn't have that. So they're set up that you can do that with the knife, you know, like the ideal weapon for the acid scene literally is the knife, because you can
aim that. Oh, I didn't even think about that. I was having such trouble
hit it
shooting
and then
it.
step back and then it'll fall on him. And then like you don't even have to shoot him in the actual final encounter. All you have to do is, you know, do whatever it
get him in front of the laser.
to get him in front of the laser. So that's why the final battles are a little bit, I wouldn't say lackluster. Mm-hmm. I just think they're built differently, because at the time, this was the hardest Resident Evil. I don't really knew if they could predict how much ammo people were going to have at the end of the game. And like, I was definitely hinting, no, Casey, go back here and check this. I think you might need it, especially knowing that like you want to be safe and comfortable, because I wouldn't want you to get frustrated to the point where you're like, I don't want to play this game. Why are you making me play this game? You made me play it on hard mode. Why did you do that?
No, I thankfully never reached that point. But yeah,
because hard mode is normal mode. They were just trying to be edgy.
Yeah. Is there? I wonder if I don't remember if you can unlock an extra difficulty or if it's just the two. But that would
I
be
don't
cool.
think you unlock anything in the game.
There's mercenaries.
Unless you do mercenaries. Yeah. Oh, that's what I was going to say. You don't unlock anything from your rank like you do in the other games. You only unlock things from mercenary.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, I vaguely remember like being a kid and reading up on that on game FAQs way back in the day.
So what were some of the more standouty So what were some of the more standouty similarities and differences for you?
I think at first I was, because you encounter the big worm, and he is left out of the remake, and that was kind of controversial. I mean, the remake cut out a lot of things, but specifically the removal of the worm boss was had many people upset. But I think the first,
which is funny to me, because it's like, of all the things that you're gonna say is controversial, I know you didn't know any better, but like, of all the things that people would say are controversial, the worm boss, not the fact that there's like an entire segment of the game,
the clock tower,
gone, right,
which is the other thing that people were angry that was left out. But like I feel like you encounter the worm boss like 2 or 3 times, and I just remember the first time I was like, okay, this is stupid. But then like the more I encountered him, and the more he sort of like shook up the environments with like the is he the one who creates the sinkhole that you fall into? I don't think that's so like so it was just,
it's a nice
cool
build up.
It was dynamic,
like
and
you're anticipating this like thing that's subtly been in the background the entire time, and he's a boss that's not the nemesis. In
addition to Nemesis is already a freaking nuisance. So having this giant worm which could devour Nemesis, and I really kind of wish he had, but that's neither here nor there. But yeah, I was bummed he wasn't in the remake now that I've experienced him. I feel, and the boss battle with him wasn't particularly, like, it wasn't super hard, but like it wasn't easy. I think I died once or twice in it. Once I realized, okay, you should actually dodge. You should just
then that's the funny thing about the old Resident Evil games is like you are so accustomed to tanking all of the hits because you have the healing items and just like laying out your heavy firepower,
and you can run and shoot.
I think Nemesis is the first game where you can't do that. Like you actually have to dodge, and they
created the mechanic
dodge
for
mechanic.
Yeah,
they literally, and which is not easy to use, but they tried to give you at least something to encourage you. Like, no, you can't stand here anymore and take all these hits. Like you have to move around.
I think had I played it on, so just for like listeners, I played the game on an emulator. It was the GameCube version on my PC, and I used an Xbox controller. So had I used had I actually played it on like PlayStation or something with a PlayStation controller, I think I would have been a little bit better at dodging, just because like I know the buttons better and I didn't map them myself and kind of just half-assed did that. So
I get it. I'm a newborn toddler. Anytime I touch an Xbox controller, like I don't. It's not different, but it's different.
Yeah, right. But you know, it's still fun.
Personally, we've talked about this before. But I get the most upset with the remake and how they handled Nemesis.
Yeah.
He is supposed to be the pressure of the game, and the first third of the remake is great because he is there. Like you are dealing with situations with him being there
so stressful
for that first third. Yeah, and it's very stressful.
It kind of matches how 2 handles Mr. X. I think it's very similar, and similar and successful.
And depending on whose story you're playing in 2 remake, like if you're doing Leon's scenario, Mr. X comes back. If you're doing Claire's, he gets taken out. So, you know, he still could be a presence depending on who you're playing, but the removal of that pressure is not, it really takes away from the game. Mm-hmm. And like the fact that Carlos has a small segment where Nemesis is there, the fact that Nemesis does change in the original very subtly, where, you know, like, okay, you're used to him and his punchy and rocket launchery mechanics. Now he's more long range with tentacles.
Right.
You know what I mean? It trips you up. It's very different. That's a good way to break up, you know, the monotony of Nemesis again. But the fact that literally you didn't know he was going to be there.
Nope.
Like they got rid of the jump through the window.
Yep. Yeah.
In the police station. And I remember I was like, hey, you need to watch this because you did a video on it.
Yeah.
You know,
I still think I got
jumped.
scared.
Like,
yeah.
Yeah. It's such a good moment. So they really killed the remake because of just how they decided to handle Nemesis. And I honestly do think it was just lazy design. I think it was one of those things where we were taking so long and we want to ride the high of how successful the Resident Evil 2 remake
it came
was.
out so quickly after.
Yeah, I was shocked.
They probably
to hear
developed
that.
it at the same time, I bet.
Yeah, probably. I see that, but the original, like the clock tower battle, when you finally like feel like this could be the end of the game, and there's just so much more to it.
Yeah. One thing I think as you were talking earlier, I think I liked playing as Carlos more in the remake than I did in the original, just because I feel like he had it was longer, and I just feel like there was more to do. It's more
skill based too, where like you get to kind of pick your shots, and it is a completely different area, so you're exploring a little bit more with different weapon types. Where in the original, it's kind of like, I went to this floor and did this puzzle, I went to this floor and this puzzle, and I'm done.
Exactly.
But yeah, though I really don't like that defend Jill.
I think it's fun. Like, it would be fun in like a mercenary situation, or like that, and it's fun in that way, but like it feels kind of out of place in the game and the narrative as a whole, to me.
That's a good way to put it. It does feel very much like the mercenaries.
Like it's fun, but it just feels weird where it is.
Yeah,
or how it is, I guess, in both ways.
And how you have to blow up the pillar, how you have to get the security to slowly drop. Like, it really makes no sense. It's just another way they were just kind of like,
could have been
what's
a clock
the way
tower
that we can make this exciting? Yeah, it could have been the clock tower, exactly. Well, I think that's a wrap on our discussion on the original Resident Evil 3.
Yes.
Definitely want you to let us know your thoughts over on our Discord or our Instagram. We love it when you guys come out and show your love and show us your thoughts. As usual, we want to thank all of our Patreon supporters for making this possible. We really appreciate your love and support. Again, one last time, thank you for tuning in with us. Now go out there and get gaming.